All right, all right, all right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Welcome to our Inner Circle Live pre-New York session. I'm your host, Ryan Carthage, joined by my awesome partner, Mr. Benny Allen. Hope everybody's doing well today on this beautiful Tuesday. As always, let's turn off all distractions, grab a pen and paper, let's take lots of notes, and let's make sure that we participate and engage. And as always, we want to make sure we start our day off by taking massive action. Action stands for accepting all possible losses before entering a trade, preparing you for any outcome, centering yourself, body, mind, and spirit, ensuring a balanced approach to trading, trust in education, strategy, trade skills, and intuition. Imagine your trade successfully materializing, obeying your trading strategy, avoiding decisions based on greed or fear, and never looking back or stopping once your trade has commenced. As I, so let's get to it. If everybody can hear me okay, drop me a one in the chat and we will get things moving. I apologize for my delay this morning, some technical difficulties. Trying out some new setup things. All right, beautiful. Appreciate it. So, um, we got gold soaring, um, fear and uncertainty still in the market. You got Donald Trump threatening Jay Powell. um, so gold, gold continues to rise, right? Extended the rally, surged past 34.90 per ounce on Tuesday, setting new record highs driven by risk aversion amid growing economic uncertainty. On Monday, Donald Trump reiterated his criticism of Fed Chair Powell, suggesting the possibility of removing him. These remarks raised concerns about politicization of the U.S. monetary policy, potentially undermining the Fed's credibility and eroding investor confidence in the economy. And this added to ongoing worries over global trade tensions, especially between the U.S. and China. Trump's investigation into critical mineral tariffs last week, which could affect relations with the suppliers or with suppliers like China, may further strain ties between the two powers. All right. So far, gold has gained more than 30% this year. Okay. And we've been talking about for 2 years now how central banks have bought, well, in that first year in 2022, 2023, central banks bought more gold than they had in history in a 4 month time frame, and they continue to pilot on the gold side. And so this is the result ultimately. So that's where we are on gold. We'll continue to see that rise. Um, so yeah, that's what he said, Joy. But what'll be interesting is the trend is, right? They don't listen to, they don't follow the law and they do whatever they like. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of things are pulled to try to make that happen. Um, so we'll see. We'll see. I'm curious on the type of unconstitutional things uh what type of unconstitutional things happen um, as we go through this year to make that happen. But I think one of the things that it also kind of pushes for and will, if they do end up following along, um, the tax cuts, as he's trying to push that through, that in combination with potential rate cuts, if he's able to force his hand in some unconstitutional way, um, that could lead to the market soaring. but also inflation soaring as well. And that's the continued concern, is that inflation will continue to rise. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Yeah, Reese, I would like a low price also. Um, what so that's where we are. So Reese, I'll come back to your post in a second. Um, the yen, Japanese yen climbed to around 140 per dollar on Tuesday, hovering at a 7-month high as investors sought safety amid global trade tensions and growing skepticism toward U.S. assets. Market sentiment was dampened by stalled trade talks with China, refusing to yield to Donald Trump's aggressive tariff policies. Confidence in the U.S. Outlook also took a hit after Trump threatened to remove Jerome Powell over delays in rate cuts. Domestically, attention turns to next week's Bank of Japan policy meeting. While the central bank is widely expected to maintain its benchmark at zero point 0.5, it may lower economic growth forecast in light of rising external risks, particularly the impact on U.S. tariffs on Japan's heavy export economy. So the yen is going to be an interesting play as we move forward, because you have safe haven flight, but you also have things kind of stalling a bit from their original plan. So it'll be interesting to see how the Bank of Japan moves in light of those concerns. Um, we got major boroughs in Europe were lower on Tuesday, with both stocks 50, stocks 600 down 0.6% as investors return from the Easter break amid renewed concern over trade tensions, the economic outlook, and the independence of the Federal Reserve. Donald Trump criticized increasing pressure on the central bank to cut rates and fueling fresh concerns about autonomy. Meanwhile, the trade negotiations between U.S. and other countries over tariffs are ongoing. Investors are also closely watching the IMF spring meetings this week, with the fund expected to release an update on global economic outlook. On the corporate front, Novo Nordisk dropped 6% after rival Eli Lilly reported critical trial results for its GLP-1 drug, showing safety and efficacy comparable to popular injection treatments. Other notable declines, SAP, LVMH, and ASML Holdings. So everybody's concerned about the autonomy of the Fed, right? And the manipulation from the federal government. So that's where they are. Over to the calendar. BOJ CPI came out early this morning, held steady from previous reading, right? Forecast was 2.4. So it came in below expectation there. Later on today, we have FOMC members speaking. We got President Lagarde speaking. Got consumer confidence for the euro. IMF day 2 kicks off today. More FOMC members speaking. You got flash PMI for the Aussie. Manufacturing PMI for the yen. Tomorrow, you have you run a PMI data coming out of the Eurozone and out of the UK. More FOMC members speaking. Flash PMI for the dollar. Crude oil inventories. Day 3 of the IMF meetings. Governor Bailey speaking. Beige book. On Thursday, unemployment claims, core durable goods, existing home sales, bank holiday in New Zealand and Australia, Tokyo core CPI for Japan. Then on Friday, you got retail sales, Swiss National Bank Schiegel. Speaking core retail sales for Canada, and then U of M consumer confidence. All right, so that's the run of this week. Benny, good morning, bro.
Ryan, good morning. Good morning, everybody. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
Awesome. What's top of mind for you today, bro?
Oh man, tariffs, Fed independence. That, that's it. That's it. You know,
Yeah.
crashing, crashing the markets, and inviting us all to his next bankruptcy. That's all. Uh,
Definitely wants us to take part.
yeah. But the bottom line, markets are short. Markets are short. So if you trade it, a lot of those downside setups that we saw on stocks and things like that, those those remain in play.
Yeah.
Those remain in play. I mean, uh, with the threat to Fed independence, you see the yen gaining safe haven support as a result.
Yep.
So that's it. So the market, he continues to tank markets. Of course, the fear we talked about that on Saturday is oftentimes it's like, man, we're at some really low prices. You don't want to get caught short in squeezes, but like we talked about, minimizing your risk and things like that, not taking full positions in the market. But right now, you trade what you see, if you've got your trader's hat on, and these markets are short. So, there's always the possibility of something changing on the dime, but it is what it is. It's why we use stop losses. the markets are the markets are short right now.
Marcus was short, bro. Um, some major gaps down yesterday. But yeah, that's what it is, dude. That's exactly what it is. Um, don't have much else to say. Team, do you guys have anything that you want to bring to the table, or have any questions about the fundamental side of things and where we are? No. So, Benny, how could he make this happen, even unconstitutionally, with his threats to Jay Powell?
I don't know. I guess pull an apprentice move and say you're fired, but I don't think that's even. I don't even think it matters. I think he just puts pressure on him to try to get him to step down because legally he really
Mm,
he really can't fire him. So you just continue to put pressure and make threats to get him to step down.
step down.
You know, uh, look at the markets continue to fall. Maybe he's like, oh well, I'm just gonna look at the markets are crashing, like I'm just gonna step down or something like that. But he doesn't have to. He doesn't. He doesn't have to. So right now it's just a mobster move. You know,
Yeah.
where you're just constantly threatening, to take out his knees with a baseball bat. I guess. You know, uh, that's how he operates. I mean, America elected a mobster for the second time. You know,
Yeah.
so I think he's got bigger fish to fry, considering what's going on with the military right now. Um, Powell represents stability. You lose that stability, you lose that Fed independence. But we talked about it before it even, before this latest threat came. We talked about it last week, talked about it the weekend. Like you you continue to put pressure that way, and if there's a threat to Fed independence, the market's going to crash. Like that's just what it is.
Yeah. And then you undermine everything else too, right? Like
Yeah,
even the next person that comes in, like where do they stand as far as confidence that they can actually make decisions?
yeah. And he wants somebody to. You're exactly right. I mean, he wants somebody to give cover to the bad decisions that he's making. But to cut rates right now in the midst of inflation, which he wants to pretend doesn't exist, right?
Right.
It's a huge mistake because if you cut and inflation goes through the roof, what tool do you have to rein in inflation if it moves higher if you've already cut rates to say zero? Right? Then you go negative, like it doesn't make any sense. This is not and you don't have to have graduated from, a major Ivy League institution to realize that it doesn't make sense. Nothing that he does makes sense. And I get sick of the media trying to frame it as if it could possibly make sense. It doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
and that's it. That's the bottom line. Like in the market, because I mean, it's just not my personal opinion. The market is telling you it doesn't make sense. You've got Amazon saying, well, not even saying they've paused. Uh, what is this? Some of his data center lease commitments.
Oh,
So what do we talk about when we thinking, recession, and we got a lot of major institutions saying, hey, if these tariffs stay in place, we will see a recession, right? A lot of people think we're already in one. Amazon is pausing lease agreements, right? And we talk about when there's uncertainty in the market, companies, your major players, they are hesitant to do what? Expand, to grow, to create new jobs, to invest because they
yeah.
don't want to know what's going to happen next. Like why? Like why would I? Why would I overly commit? For example, with him wanting to bring this manufacturing back, even though you walk in a lot of manufacturing facilities now, and it's people walking around in lab coats with tablets in their hand, you know, watching robot arms go back and forth. So I don't know how that's gonna necessarily bring back all these jobs, right? So at the end of the day, you still can't avoid the education piece. You got to know how to run those robots, right? So,
Yep.
um, you know, why would I be so quick to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to bring my company back here and produce in America? Well, you might change your mind tomorrow,
Right.
and all of a sudden I'm caught in a bad situation because of some policy shift to where it doesn't even make sense for me to be here domestically. Now I've lost hundreds of millions of dollars to produce back in the United States, and we got another policy shift. I just we live in a world where the media constantly and consistently normalizes insanity. But I'm saying it right here, right now. Like what is going on in this country is insane.
Facts.
It's not normal, and it's all is everything just it sours. We're talking about trading, but it's the combination of everything that's going on that dampens the mood. You got universities being threatened to where they have to file lawsuits. You got people disappearing and going to where are they shipping folks to? Like just
It was a Venezuela.
No, no, it was
What
not Venezuela, but whatever. Shipping people across the border, and it's like, and it's if you don't, even if you don't care about that particular person, he is blatant. He is just showing total disregard for the rule of law and the Constitution and judicial orders. That's the point, right?
Yeah.
So how can you run a country that's supposed to be a democracy like that? So that sours the mood, sentiment, right? It impacts the sentiment. That's one of the things that we follow. So all of it matters, or all of it matters because it leads to uncertainty. So the markets are short,
El
as they,
Salvador.
yeah, El
Yeah.
Salvador. The markets are short, as they should be, considering what's going on. Like, what do we always say? Follow the money.
Follow the
So,
money.
so no matter what the media is telling you and the narrative they're trying to build, depending on what channel you listen to, follow the money. What is the money telling you? The money telling you that this is some BS. So that's it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the insights and the thoughts, bro. Um, I'm in agreement with you. It's all insanity. It's all insanity. Um, and so our job is to figure out how we can better our positions and our family positions at this point, um, to insulate ourselves from the major impact of the insanity. Uh but the markets are down. Reese, you said we got a D extension hit on the 4 hour, 80-20 sell on the one. What pair is that, sir? Let's see what other comments we got here. Good morning, Deb. Um, yeah, I saw that clip, Joy. It was definitely people don't really know what they're talking about. On gold, okay. Um, yes, gold. We can go take a look at it real quick. Um, that's the S&P 500. We'll come back to it. But gold going crazy, going crazy. Let's clean up some of this so we can see all of the data, but flying high, right? Flying high. 3,500 there, right? Starting to stall a little bit, but right, you see we got our retest and we got our continuation to the upside there. All right, we're waiting for a new swing high to form if we can get one. But right now we haven't been able to get one. And so price continues to fly on the daily. Stochastic is overbought. We could see a correction or a retracement and then a continuation to the upside. I don't see that changing much. So we come here, run our fib off the high. Yeah, run our fib from here. All right, that took out the A. Boom. There's your D extension hit. So look for a pullback and a continuation of some sort. Ah, okay. Trailing stops. I like it. I like it. That's definitely a good idea. Yeah, I wouldn't be selling I wouldn't be selling gold. Um, I'm just looking for pullbacks and low prices, retests of the highs that it makes, and then looking to continue to add to the long position. I I'm not in the business of selling this one, man. Not in the business of selling this one. So I definitely think it'll continue moving to the upside. So if we get a swing high here, that fib will look like this. Okay. We have a previous high here that hasn't been retested at 32.55, and we got a high here. So, right, when we look at our sweet spots, this range, 50% to 78.6. All right. So looking at that range there, we can get price to pull back in that area to give us an opportunity to buy. Right. So that's what I'm looking for here. That's what I'm looking for here. A pullback, a retest previous highs, potentially coming back, retesting this previous B boundary, and then we'll look to get back long. So that action there. That's on your 4. Come down to your 1. And I'll pull this out for a second. This out for a second. Boom. And there you go on your 1. You got an 80-20 shallow retracement, 118, 127 zone, right? And there's your setup for that retracement. Like I said, I'm not looking to sell this. Um, I'm looking for a low price. So if you want to play the 80-20, by all means, just be cautious of the retracement coming. Of these levels and the reversal coming out of those, right? Um, but that's what I'm looking for on gold, pullbacks and continuations. All right. Joy, what's happening?
So what I did when I'm just looking at gold, just trying to find a place, and I done stepped into my scalper hat. I put alerts on all the yields, um, and I'm noticing if it's over 100, it's rallying up. But when it's
Mm.
dropping down to 90 and it hasn't gotten to like 80, it hasn't gotten to 89 yet. But when I'm seeing it's dropping down to 90, that's when I'm like, okay, gold is pulling back. And so I've been utilizing the 2 and the 10 year on the price on for gold.
Huh. Interesting. Okay. Okay. That's been an interesting situation too with how those yields are moving compared to the dollar as well. Um, and it makes for an interesting story on where things are. The article said investors are realizing the Trump trade is sell America. That's the new Trump trade. So it's interesting to look at those bonds and how they're moving. But appreciate that insight, Joy. Appreciate that. Um, that's gold. Any other thoughts or questions on gold? Excuse me. That's funny. That's funny. All right. So let's go. Let's bounce back to the DXY. We didn't take a look at that there, but that's where we are, right? It's another weekly support level. Come back. Right? We worked that previous monthly level down at a weekly support level now. Got an 80-20. We'll see if we get a reversal at any point. We may not though, right? We've just been in shallow retracements and continuation to the downside with all the uncertainty um, that we have. So we will continue to monitor this. Uh, we'll continue to monitor the scenario and see if something causes a retracement at any point. Um, I don't have much confidence in that happening anytime soon, but we shall see with the IMF meetings and all your central bank speakers coming to the microphone this week. We'll see what happens. But ultimately, the dollar is down. Okay. We'll come back to the weekly on this. Look at it from a broader perspective. Right. 618 retracement, matching the extension 91,959. That's a long way. Stochastic is almost at zero. But do we get ultimately this to occur? We'll see. We'll see. Because we're breaking out of this range here, right? Pushing down out of that. So if we get a pullback and a retest of any of these previous lows, we could be in for a continued collapse of the dollar. So we'll watch and see how that goes, right? So to the 4, we'll run that fib off the high here because we're headed down. And that's where we are. We got an 80-20 on the 4 as well. But you see that stochastic pushing into the sell zone. Okay. So we'll look to see what happens fundamentally. But right now it's all short side. So if any pullback at all, we're looking to continue short. And that's if we get a retracement at all. All right. So that's the DXY S&P 500. Right. Made us move down yesterday. Boom. We got a little bit retracement leading into pre-market or end of the day, but overall it's down, right? So we recovered some of what we lost yesterday, but still looking to the downside overall. Come back to the daily, and we're down, right? Move down, we got to pull back, retest previous support that we broke through, and we're working on that continuation to the downside. So ultimately, right, I'm looking at 42.34 as the extension here. Okay. The way things are trending right now, I don't see this is out of bounds, right? And coming back to some of these other support levels around the 4,000 range until he gets some of his things pushed through. So looking short on the S&P 500, at least till 42.34. And then we'll see what changes from there.
Ryan, when you look at the monthly and the weekly though, that rejection
Is it strong?
So
Let's see.
could turn around, who knows?
I dig it. I see what you're saying.
And
Let's see.
Retest to the previous resistance, right? To the left there. Over. When you come down over to them. Yeah.
Over here. Gotcha. I see that. Yep. Let's see. All right, because you still got stochastic still working its way down. Let's see, because and you could, what you could potentially see is the month close bearish, and then a pullback and a retest of that previous. This is a daily level there on the lower time frame. You could see some action like that. So let's watch and see. I'm curious. That is a nice retest of that level. You have this level here also that hasn't been retested. So it'll be interesting to see from a monthly time frame what this pans out to be. To the weekly, you took out your A. on that capital fib, right? Boom, took out the A, we pulled back, retested the area that we broke through. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm looking at too. So we'll take those out and we'll flip that fib to the don't quite have it yet, but we'll run that off the high. Boom. There we go. So we got a D extension and then just a cluster right here, right? So D extension was achieved. We don't have a swing low yet. We'll see what happens this week. That could give us a swing low for potential pullback and continuation to the downside. But let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. Let's see if we get any more tweets or true social posts is where this communication is coming from for Donald Trump. So let's watch and see. That's that's all I've got right now because it's so back and forth and so chaotic. On the weekly, you do have a stochastic in the buy zone, which could spell this retracement here, coming back and retesting this level again, which is a previous daily support level and a previous weekly support level here. So let's watch and see what happens. All right, we'll see where we close on the weekly. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we get another pullback and retest this 54.98 area. Because in my mind, that gives us this. So we'll watch and see how things move. Overall, I'm looking lower. It's just do we get a retracement before we move lower or not? Is kind of where I stand. Okay. Questions on the S&P 500, right? It's down. We got a deep retracement there on the 4786, matching extension 4677. Okay. So just where does it go from here? Down on your one. We took all of those out. On your one, you're moving to the downside. You got a 50% retracement. Stochastic in the sell zone. So we'll see. We'll see what today spells, right? Because today we could potentially move lower here and get back to these lower ranges and potentially take out this A this week to give us a double bottom in that range. So we'll watch and see, right? It's all back and forth. So I'm just sitting tight and just monitoring the flow of things. Yeah. So that's where I am. Over to some currencies. This pound NZD is just holding on the 4 hour in this range, right? Didn't get a deep retracement on the daily, right? We're shy of that 382. So if we do get, so it's either a pullback into this area and a continuation deeper, or we push into the 118, 127 zone on the daily time frame and then make a lower low, right? So I'm looking for, I'm relatively bullish on this pair. But do we get a lower price before we continue to the upside? Okay. And here's another scenario where, right, just looking at the retracement opportunity is do we get a crown pattern here? If that retracement comes out of this 80-20 zone and give us that lower price. Okay, so watching this 80-20 here, looking for that buying opportunity to then potentially get short for a lower low before a longer run move to the upside. Oops, didn't want that. Okay, so watching this 80-20 here, as is just continuing to be range bound. got some interesting things with the pound as they're looking at another rate cut. We'll see what the forward guidance is there and what the impact on the market is next month, but looking for a reversal overall. Okay. Like I said, even if it's short term, getting a high price and then getting back short. Okay. So looking for that. We're still below the cloud. Still below the cloud. So boom. Right. So we just need to wait on those additional confirmations here. If we get a nice cloud break, that's confirmation of that setup for the upside, right? But we're just range bound right now. Questions on pound NZD?
Nope.
All right. Cool deal. I'm looking on the Swiss yen. It's coming down, made a nice move to the upside. So the Swiss yen is an interesting one because you got two safe haven currencies, right? But we made a nice run back to the upside off that 80-20 on the lower time frame, and now we're turning back over. It's going to be interesting, like I said, what happens with the Bank of Japan. But I'm curious on this one. As we came back into that 618-786 range on that retracement, and we're starting to turn over now from a weekly time frame perspective. All right, so we come down to the daily, and ultimately you got to the top of the range, and you're on your way back down. Okay, and so on this move back down, do we get back to the bottom of the range at 165, or do we finally break that and continue to move lower? Okay, I don't know that we get up here into the 183s, but that is potential depending on what happens with the yen. Okay, so this is another one I'm watching just to get more clarity on where price moves. But right now we're range bound, so we come down to the 4. Okay, didn't get to the D extension after that retracement. Crazy run to the upside. Oops. And now we're here. Right? Retracement phase. Do we get a low price and then move back up, or do we continue lower? Okay. So watching this to see what happens when we get down into the 618, 786 range on this 4-hour fib to see if we stall and then move back higher. Trying to break the cloud now, starting to get your little twist there, right? So this could be a setup for a continued lower move, but we'll watch and see, right? We got a rate statement for the yen next week. So somebody had a question? No?
No.
Okay. Coming down to the 1. Took out the A. And we'll run back down. 618 retracement, matching extension 71,409. So headed down. Okay, so that's where we are on the Swiss yen. Headed to the downside for now, potentially range bound from a higher time frame perspective. Aussie dollar, still haven't gotten that retracement, right? Took out the A there on the daily, right? And so now what happens? We got stochastic in the sell zone, do we get a retracement at some point to set us up for, but this is going to go back to the dollar though, right? And where the dollar moves, if we get a retracement on the dollar at all. So far we have not. But do we get this action here, which sets us up for another crown pattern if that occurs? Okay. So we'll come down to the 4. Took out the A on the 4. Run the fib off the low. 80-20 on the 4. Okay, so there's a setup there for potential retracement. We'll see if we get that move on the dollar as well, though, right? We need something to move the DXY to the upside. Or if we get some we got Aussie data coming up as well, so that could also give us a temporary retracement. But 80-20 on the 4 on the Aussie dollar, right? Wait for your additional confirmations and potential short opportunity there. Just trying to break your trend line there. That's on your 4. We come down to the 1. Fresh AB boundary. We didn't get the retracement last time we sat in that 80-20 zone, right? So let's see if we get this alternating fib and give us a retracement this time. Okay, got a double top there on the 1, and now we're pressing down. Maybe another pullback before we break through that cloud and continuation to the downside. So let's watch that there, 4-hour 80-20. Questions on the Aussie dollar?
No, sir.
Right, cool beans. And we'll see, right? We'll see how the market moves coming out of the holiday, right? You still had some country with bank holidays yesterday. So we'll see as capital flows back in the market where the money goes. Okay. So keep your eyes on that as well. Quick look at the pound yen. Just sideways. Just sideways. Trying to push down now, but overall we're stuck in a range there. So nothing happening on that side. Benny, you got anything you got your eyes on beginning of the week, bro?
Man, just looking at these yens, right? Short Aussie yen. Actually looking at the that pound yen on a 1 hour short to the downside.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you think continuation down here?
Yeah. Yep. Stock market's down. You know, investors seeking out a safe haven in the yen. You're getting yen strength right now. So I just have a small position short. You know, a lot of those yens, that CAD yen has been in forever, but that's gonna hit that CAD yen is gonna hit that extension soon on the 4. So it's
Yeah.
you know, just looking at yen strength plays. You know, Aussies just like we covered on Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, we built the case for that, but yeah.
All down.
Yep.
All down. You said the CAD yen. This one, I was looking at this morning. It's in an interesting spot. I don't see it turning around, but we're sitting at daily support level here. Stochastic in the buy zone.
Yeah, it's
So
been
looking for
since
a break
24. You know what I
and a
mean?
retest. Yeah, yeah. So I'm looking for a break and a retest of that for a continuation to the downside. So that's what I'm waiting on there. This one definitely is taking a long time. Ooh. Yeah, so that's what I'm watching right there on this CAD-yen, right? Can we break and retest this level and then continuation to the downside? But this is a beautiful ABCD sequence here, right? 618 retracement, and now we're on that move down. Down on the 4, right? We're continuing to break down. That's that support level there. 127 is the target. Right, so that one's headed to the downside there, as Benny stated. And boom. We're down. There we go. Break at that level, right? Retest and then continuation to the downside, getting us to that 100 even range. Questions on anything that we covered this morning? Safe haven, market is down. that's the consensus, and that's the trend. He will get short too, Joy.
A question for Joy. Is the 2-year yield and the 10-year, is that on Smart Trader or no?
Trading view.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yep.
Cool beans. Benny, anything before we wrap it up, bro?
No, sir. That's it, man.
All right, good people. All right, continue to pick your spots, continue to be patient. And just continue to follow the money, as Benny said. All right, we'll be back at it tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. For the Spring New York session, you guys have a phenomenal Tuesday. Peace.